Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today we're jumping into the world of a true American original, Sam Walton, the guy behind Walmart.
That's right.
We're digging into his autobiography, Made in America, a really candid look at how he built this retail giant. He called it simply the miracle of ordinary folks doing extraordinary things.
Yeah, and it's interesting why he wrote it. He did it late in life, battling cancer, and he really wanted to set the record straight. He felt the story, especially around his wealth and how it all happened, was, often misunderstood.
Yeah.
So our mission here is to pull out those core ideas, the principles, maybe some surprising bits you don't always hear about.
Okay, let's do it. Starting right at the beginning, his early life. What was it about those formative years that kind of lit that fire, that competitive spark we saw later?
Oh, he was definitely there early on. I mean, even as a Boy Scout, he was apparently betting people he'd be the first Eagle Scout in his troop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in college, same thing. Played sports, sure, but also got elected class president. It wasn't just wanting to win. It felt like this deep-seated need to compete, to be the best.
So where did that come from?
Well, a lot traces back to his parents. His dad, Thomas Gibson Walton, seems to have been all about hard work, honesty, getting up early, putting in the hours, solid foundation.
Right.
But his mom, Nan Walton, she was the ambitious one, always pushing him, saying stuff like, always try to be the best you could at whatever you took on. Really drove him.
Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and some accounts suggest his parents argued a lot. It makes you wonder if maybe his constant need to be busy to achieve was partly a way to channel that energy or just stay out of the house,
Could be. And then, of course, there's his wife, Helen Robson. Huge influence, right? Especially her family background.
Absolutely massive. When Sam was looking to start his own store after the war, Helen had these key conditions. She famously said, no big cities, no partnership.
Oh, that was real specifically.
Well, her family had apparently lost money in partnerships, so she was wary of that risk. And she preferred small-town life. So, towns under 10,000 people.
Okay, so those rules seem, limiting on the surface. No big cities, no partnerships. How did that actually turn into a strategic advantage for Walmart down the road? Seems kind of backward.
That's a great point because it was fundamental. Sticking to small towns meant they weren't going head-to-head with the big, established retailers right away. They had room to breathe, to experiment, to figure things out without intense pressure.
Ah, okay. Less competition.
Exactly. And the no partnerships rule. That meant Sam kept complete control. He could make decisions fast, pivot quickly, no committees, just his vision. Crucial for innovation later.
Makes sense. And even before that, his childhood jobs, like the paper route.
Yeah, classic example. He didn't just deliver papers. He apparently hired other kids, expanded the route, made it profitable. Even waiting tables in college, he was learning about service, about value. He earned all his own money pretty much from day one, so he understood a dollar.
Got it. So he definitely had that entrepreneurial streak baked in early. Okay, fast forward. His first proper retail gig after college, JCPenney. What did he take away from that?
$75 a month.
Yes, $75 a month. And it sounds like it was intense. He had this boss, Duncan Majors, who was just relentless, worked him like crazy, 6:30 a.m. starts, late finishes, talking retail, even on Sundays.
Wow.
But Sam saw the payoff. He remembered Majors waving around a bonus check for like $65,000 a fortune back then. It showed Sam the direct link between that kind of dedication, really knowing retail inside out, and the potential rewards.
So it wasn't just grunt work, it was seeing the potential.
Exactly. And then James Cash Penney himself visited the store once and apparently showed Sam a more efficient way to wrap packages. Just underscored how important every little detail was and that personal touch from the top.
That detail focus definitely stuck with him. Okay, so after Penney's, he makes the leap. Buys his first store, a Ben Franklin franchise in Newport, Arkansas, 1945. What did he do differently? Right away, he started bending the rules. The franchise agreement said he had to buy like 80% of his stock from Ben Franklin. But Sam immediately started looking for better deals elsewhere. He was already, as he put it, fiddling with the status quo, not content to just follow the franchise playbook, always looking for an edge.
And this leads to, a pretty famous story involving ladies' underwear, right? This seems like a key moment.
Yes, the legendary panties story. It really does capture his thinking. He found this other supplier, Harry Weiner, who could sell him satin panties for $2 a dozen. Ben Franklin was charging him $2.50.
Okay, a better price.
Right. So Sam thought, okay, Ben Franklin sells them 3 for $1. What if I sell these cheaper ones at 4 for $1? Big promotion. Huge sign.
And
they flew off the shelves. It was this massive light bulb moment for him. He realized, slash the price, Even if the margin per item is smaller, you can drive such huge volume that your total profit is way higher.
So volume over margin.
That was it. The absolute essence of discounting. It wasn't just a gimmick. It was a fundamental shift in thinking that would underpin everything Walmart did. A real game changer for retail back then.
So that was the core idea. What other early experiments hinted at his opportunistic style?
Well, he put a popcorn machine out on the sidewalk. Simple, right? Drew people in. Then he figured he needed a soft ice cream machine to go with it.
Okay.
Famously took out his first bank loan, about $1,800 for that ice cream machine. Small bets, immediate impact. He also apparently snapped up a competitor's lease once, even without a solid plan for it, just to keep him out. Always looking for an opportunity, always testing.
And then, ironically, he loses the lease on that successful Newport store. Sounds like a disaster, but it wasn't.
Not at all. It was actually a blessing in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Because the store was doing so well, partly thanks to his improvements and ignoring some franchise rules, the landlord wouldn't renew the lease at a reasonable price. But Sam sold the lease and fixtures for like $50,000 profit.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Huge amount of cash back then. It gave him the capital and the freedom to start fresh, somewhere else, completely on his own terms, without the Ben Franklin restrictions.
Okay, so with that money and freedom, Sam and Helen land in Bentonville, Arkansas, 1950. He buys a variety store there and immediately does something pretty radical for the time, right?
He did. He converted it to self-service. Apparently, it was only the third self-service variety store in the entire country at that point.
Heard in the U.S. Why was that such a big deal?
Think about it. Most stores then had clerks behind counters getting everything for you.
Yeah.
Self-service was totally new. It meant fewer staff needed, potentially faster shopping. It was efficiency, even back then. And he had to figure out how to promote this new way of shopping in, small-town Arkansas.
How did he promote it?
Oh, he was a born promoter. Unorthodox stuff. Like when hula hoops were the big craze, suppliers couldn't keep up. So Sam just bought bulk plastic hose and had his team make their own hula hoops right there in the store. Sold tons.
No way, just made them.
Yeah. And he and his early managers, like a guy named Phil Green, would literally cut ads out of newspapers from bigger cities, paste their own incredibly low prices over the competitors' items, and run those as their ads. Very guerrilla marketing.
Resourceful.
Totally. And Phil Green pulled off this famous stunt in Hot Springs, built a pyramid using 3,500 cases of Tide detergent, called it the world's largest Tide display, got news coverage, caused a huge buzz, and they sold a week's worth of Tide in like 7 days. Just constant promotion, always driving that value message.
Okay, this is fascinating. So how did they scale? Walmart's growth strategy was unique too, wasn't it? This swimming upstream, targeting small towns.
Yeah, that was maybe his most brilliant strategic insight. While Kmart and other early discounters were battling it out in the suburbs and cities, Sam deliberately went where they weren't these smaller rural towns like Morrilton, Arkansas, places everyone else ignored.
And how did the spread out then fill in strategy work?
Okay, so they built a distribution center in a new region. Then they leapfrog out, building stores maybe at the edge of a day's drive from that center. Then, over time, they'd methodically fill in the territory between those stores and the center.
Like saturation bombing, but with retail?
Kinda. They'd even put stores in rings way outside cities, knowing growth would eventually reach them. This small-town focus also meant word of mouth was huge. People talked. They didn't need massive ad budgets initially. The store opening was the event.
And his airplane played a big role in finding those spots.
Oh, massively. He was flying his own little plane long before other retailers caught on. He could scout locations from the air, see traffic patterns, judge how towns were growing, even check out competitor parking lots. He said it kept them maybe 10 years ahead of the competition in picking the best real estate in those small towns.
Incredible edge. But as they got bigger, just being opportunistic wasn't enough. They needed serious operational muscle, right? Better systems.
Absolutely. The scale demanded it. Sam knew he needed help. He started bringing in key talent. People like Ron Mayer, who was apparently a wizard with distribution. Mayer introduced concepts like cross-docking goods, barely stopping, moving right from incoming trucks to outgoing ones, and transshipment, optimizing how goods move between different trucks and roads. Huge efficiency gains.
So streamlining the flow of goods.
Precisely. And later, David Glass came in and really took their distribution to the next level. Built these enormous, highly automated distribution centers. Walmart's own system ended up handling way more of their store replenishment, like 85%, compared to maybe 50-65% for competitors relying more on vendors. That control meant lower costs, better in-stock levels. They often used their own private truck fleet, too.
And technology became key, even though Sam resisted at first.
Yeah, that's a great point. He was famously tight-fisted, right?
Yeah.
He apparently fought as hard as he could against big tech spending, saw it as overhead. But guys like Jack Shoemaker, who became president, really pushed for things like barcoding and SKU control, tracking every single item. That was fundamental for managing inventory at scale.
Makes sense. You can't manage what you don't measure.
Exactly. And the biggest leap was probably their satellite communication system in the mid-'80s. A huge investment, like $24 million back then. Sam initially balked, but it allowed them to link every store and distribution center, track sales, and inventory in near real time across the whole company. He eventually saw it wasn't a luxury. It was absolutely essential to manage the beast they'd created.
Okay, so they're huge now. But Sam was obsessed with keeping that small company feel. He had these 6 practical ways to keep our thinking small. Let's run through them. Number 1, think one store at a time.
Yeah, this was crucial. He constantly talked about specific stores. Like, he mentioned having 2 stores in Panama City, Florida. One served beach tourists, the other served the year-round locals. Totally different merchandise needed.
Right.
And in their big Saturday morning meetings in Bentonville, they wouldn't just look at aggregate numbers. They'd often dive deep into one specific store's performance against its local competitor. Then, any good ideas that came up, boom, shared instantly across the company. Kept everyone focused on the actual store level.
Smart. Okay, number 2. Communicate, communicate, communicate. We talked about the satellite system, but what about on the ground with associates?
He believed you just couldn't overdo communication. His most famous example is probably the 10-foot rule.
Ah, yeah, I've heard of that.
He made associates pledge. If you come within 10 feet of a customer, you look them in the eye, you greet them, and you ask if you can help. Simple, right? But he genuinely believed that consistent, basic customer interaction was a key reason they overtook Kmart and Sears faster than anyone expected. It made a huge company feel personal.
Makes sense. 3rd principle, keep your ear to the ground. Even with tech, he wanted managers out in the stores. How'd they make that happen?
They had this small fleet of company planes, maybe 18 of them. They weren't just for Sam. Regional managers were flying out constantly, visiting stores daily. Their job wasn't just to check up, but to gather valuable intelligence, he called it. What's selling? What's not? Why? Bring that info back for the Friday merchandising meetings. Direct pipeline from the front lines to HQ.
Okay, number 4. Push responsibility and authority down. Lots of companies say this. Few actually do it well. How did Walmart manage?
Their big thing here was the store within a store concept. Department heads weren't just supervisors. They were treated like managers of their own small business.
How so?
Walmart gave them all the numbers, their department sales, costs, freight charges, profit margins, even how their department ranked against others in the company. And they got bonuses based on performance. It empowered them, made them feel like real owners, real partners. Some departments had sales bigger than entire early Walmart stores.
Wow, that's real empowerment. 5th, force ideas to bubble up. Getting ideas from everyone, not just management.
Yeah, they actively solicited ideas.
Yeah.
They had contests like the VPI Volume Producing Item Contest. Associates would come up with wild, creative ways to display and sell a particular item. He mentioned one where they hung stuff all over a tree filled with stuffed monkeys. Whatever worked.
Huh.
And programs like Yes We Can, Sam, which encouraged cost-saving ideas that apparently saved them millions. One famous example was an hourly worker suggesting they use their own trucks on return trips backhauling to transport store fixtures instead of hiring outside truckers. Saved over $500,000 right there. An idea from the front lines.
Love that. Okay, and the 6th principle, stay lean, fight bureaucracy. How did they keep costs down and avoid getting bloated?
Sam was famously, maybe notoriously, frugal here. He set this internal rule. General office expenses could not exceed 2% of sales. The industry average was closer to 5%.
Big difference.
Huge. And their headquarters were famously Spartan. Functional, basic. He called them truck terminal-like. No fancy offices, no layers of bureaucracy just for show. It was all about efficiency, keeping overhead low, and avoiding, ego-driven corporate empires. Every dollar saved could go back into lower prices or profits.
That commitment to low prices was fanatical. We exist to provide value, a responsibility to save them money. How did that play out beyond just low overhead?
It was baked into their buying and pricing. Joel's a story about getting a crazy good deal on something, maybe paid 50 cents for an item that normally sold for $1.98. His buyers would be tempted to price it higher, make it killing.
Right, maximize the profit on that item.
But Sam would say, nope, Mark it up 30%, and that's it. Pass the savings directly to the customer, build loyalty, build traffic. They'd even price image items like toothpaste or detergent right at cost, sometimes below, just to establish that price leadership reputation. It wasn't just talk, it was policy.
But that aggressive approach must have ruffled feathers with suppliers, especially early on, like Procter & Gamble.
Well, yeah. Initially, the relationship with big vendors like P&G was often adversarial. These giants were used to dictating terms, and Walmart was pushing back hard on price. Sam said P&G kind of bulldozed them early on.
So how did that change?
It shifted dramatically around 1987. There's this famous canoe trip, apparently, between Sam and a top P&G executive.
Yeah.
They hammered out a new approach, a genuine win-win partnership.
What did that look like?
Walmart started sharing its detailed sales and inventory data directly with P&G in real time. That allowed P&G to manage its own production and shipments to Walmart much more efficiently, reducing costs for both of them. It was radical at the time, sharing that level of information.
So what's the big takeaway there for you? It's more than just retail efficiency, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's this powerful idea that vendors don't have to be adversaries you squeeze for every last penny. If you treat them like partners, share information openly, you can create a more efficient system that ultimately benefits everyone, especially the customer, through lower prices and better availability. It's about collaboration, not just confrontation.
Makes sense. Now let's talk about the people inside Walmart, the associates. Sam called his failure to include hourly associates in the early profit-sharing plan his biggest business regret. What pushed him to finally broaden that?
It seems his wife, Helen, was a major catalyst. She really pushed for it. Now, sure, there were probably some rumblings about union organizing attempts around that time, too, which might have added urgency.
Right.
But Sam credits Helen's conviction as the primary driver. Her belief and his eventual agreement was simple. The more you share profits, the more profit will accrue to the company. It wasn't just about being nice. It was fundamentally good business, aligning everyone's interests.
And that ties into their whole partnership philosophy, right? How did they make that concrete for associates, and what impact did it have?
The core idea was straightforward. How management treats the associates directly affects how those associates treat the customers. Treat associates well, make them feel like partners, and they'll provide better service. Better service brings customers back, drives sales, increases profits. It's a virtuous cycle.
Okay, but how did they do it?
Through things like profit sharing, eventually stock purchase plans. Also, the shrink incentive plan. If a store reduced its losses from theft or damage below a certain goal, the associates in that store shared in the savings. And open book management, sharing those store department financials we talked about, giving them information and a stake in the outcome, made them feel invested.
And then there was the unique culture. People call it corny or hokey sometimes. Tell us about those Saturday morning meetings you mentioned earlier.
Oh, they were legendary. 7:30 a.m. every Saturday, packed room. Sam might lead everyone in the University of Arkansas Woo Pig Sooie Razorback cheer just to get the energy up.
Seriously, the cheer.
Seriously, they'd have contests sometimes like spitting persimmon seeds for distance. They had official company cheers like, give me a W, give me an A, ending with who's number one, the customer, always. And Sam himself wasn't above it. He famously danced the hula, grass skirt, and all on Wall Street because he lost a bet with his team about hitting a profit margin target.
Okay, yeah, that sounds memorable. But it wasn't just silliness for silliness' sake. Right, there was a purpose.
Exactly. Sam knew it might look odd from the outside, but it was intentional. It was about building team spirit, breaking down the usual corporate stiffness, making managers and executives seem approachable, creating a feeling that we're all part of a family here, and none of us are too important to be a little goofy. And importantly, he also used that culture to drive constant change. He knew complacency was death in retail. So he was always pushing, bringing in college grads when maybe the old guard resisted, promoting women into management faster than many other retailers. He used the culture to keep things stirred up, to keep evolving.
It wasn't all smooth sailing, though. There was that rough patch in the mid-'70s, the Saturday Night Massacre,
Right.
when Sam tried to step back.
Right, 1974, he tried to hand over day-to-day leadership, sort of semi-retire,
Yeah.
but didn't quite take. Led to some friction, significant management changes. Ron Mayer, the distribution expert, left during that period. It was a wobble.
How did they recover?
They adapted. It actually led to David Glass eventually becoming CEO. And Glass, while maybe less the folksy merchant Sam was, turned out to be exactly the right operational and financial leader for Walmart's next massive growth phase. So even setbacks forced necessary evolution.
As Sam looked back at the end of his life, What were his core philosophical takeaways? What was he most proud of beyond just building a huge company?
He really doubled down on his belief in free enterprise, practiced correctly and morally. That was key for him. And his pride wasn't just the scale or the profits. He talked a lot about genuinely improving the lives, the standard of living of our customers by saving them money and also providing what he calls spiritual satisfaction for associates, seeing them gain confidence, learn skills, build careers. He had this vision of Walmart being a lighthouse of the Ozarks, a force for good through community support, scholarships, his Buy American program. His philosophy really boiled down to the more you give, the more you get, a belief in sharing the success.
It's quite a legacy. Sam Walton fundamentally changed retail, didn't he? That relentless challenging of norms, the laser focus on the customer, treating associates like partners, even if imperfectly at times. He showed a giant could still try to think small.
Absolutely. And it leaves you with a really interesting question Sam himself posed near the end of his book. Could a Walmart-type story still occur in this day and age?
What was his answer?
He thought so. A resounding yes, actually.
Yeah.
But he said it depends entirely on attitude, on constantly studying your field and having that willingness to just, do whatever it takes to succeed ethically. So maybe the final thought for you listening is, how could those core Walton principles, that competitive drive, pushing authority down, obsessive communication, truly radical customer focus, apply in your own world, whatever you're trying to achieve or learn? Something to chew on.